What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Anderson here, and yeah, it's pretty late. I've had quite a long weekend, so I'm not gonna spend time trying to find my Atlanta United jersey. It's somewhere in my dresser, don't know where. So I do apologize. I'm gonna have this shirt for Atlanta United and my Chelsea reviews because I'm just tired and ready to go to bed. But yeah, let's talk about Atlanta United versus LAFC. I did not get to go to the game because I did have a show, but I watched it this morning, the morning after, and I mean overall, really good game. It wasn't one of our better games, but I'll talk about that in a second. First of all, I mean obviously you got to talk about the referees because typically in the MLS the referees do take a lot of attention. First of all, the red card. I don't even know why he gave it red in the first place. They will say, "Oh, but his studs were showing," so obviously that's a. But the thing is, stud showing is a dangerous play, and that's why I ended up giving them the yellow. Which even then I'm still like, but the studs weren't facing the player, so how is that dangerous play? But the thing is, it was just a hard tackle. Studs were not aimed at the player. They didn't touch the player. His leg was not raised. He didn't jump into the challenge. It was not two-footed. All of those are what dignify a red card challenge. Whether your studs are into a player's leg, whether you're 2 foot jumping, whatever, all of those are red card challenges. This was just a simple slide tackle, and he actually won the ball. But because it was so hard, and because the guy rolls around screaming like somebody just shot him in the leg, the referee just let his emotions get to him. He's like, "Oh, red card." However, I will give him credit. After looking at VAR, he did say it's not a red card. And the thing is, this is the very first red card that's been overturned in the MLS because most of the time, referees will just be like, "No, no, I was right. I'm always right. Who cares what VAR says? I don't care if the fourth official is in my ear telling me I need to look at this again. I'm right, and I know I'm right." We saw that last year with Vasquez, his red card. Nowhere near a red. Like, he hardly even touched the guy. And the referee looked at VAR and still gave him the red anyway. Because he wasn't ready to admit that he was wrong. Because he's arrogant. This guy actually was humble enough to look at it and say, "Okay, you know what? His studs were showing, so I'll give him a yellow for that, but it wasn't a red card challenge." And I do appreciate that. And throughout most of the game, it was kind of, once again, you've got some of those challenges being called where obviously the player's going over too easy. He is calling those. But for the most part, I mean, it was consistent. He was calling it pretty strict. Um, the penalty that Almiron got, I couldn't really tell what the angle we had just because it was behind. If they had had an angle sort of from the side, it would have really shown whether there was any contact at all. But, he looked at VAR and I guess he saw enough to convince him, okay, there was a little bit of contact, so it was enough for him to go over. And then, of course, the penalty with the handball and the red card, I mean, that was blatant. It was just, guy throws his arm out there, you're definitely going to get a handball called there. So overall, people talk about the controversial calls. I saw one of the I think it was Vela, was saying, "Oh, it's obviously a red card," and Bob Bradley was like, "Oh, well, I just don't know." He gives him a red card, and it's crazy. I can't imagine that. Yeah, I wonder why. Could it be because you want him to get sent off? So that's all for the referees. As far as our overall play, it wasn't one of our better games, like I said. However, we weren't really giving LA a lot chances. And that was one of the big things is that they had a lot of possession, which I'm sure for Tata, he's not he's a pretty possession based manager. He's not one of those managers that's like, okay, I'm good without the ball. We can win it later and then counterattack. He is a manager that wants to have the ball and have possession. So I'm sure he wasn't really happy with it. However, we did well defensively. We didn't let them have a lot of chances. Any of their chances came from outside the box. So I thought we did very well there. We didn't really let them have those holy crap, they might score soon chances. So with all that being said, looking at individuals, Guzan had to make a few saves here and there, but wasn't really truly tested ever. I don't remember any shots where I was like, "Oh, that was a fantastic save by Brad." Most of them were just like, "Yeah, he should be saving that. If he didn't save it, then I would have a problem." So I thought he did well, but he wasn't really called upon to do anything above and beyond what he's used to. The back three, Miles Robinson, Michael Parkhurst, Chris McCann, Of the three, Miles is definitely the one that stood out as not as effective. He did make a few good challenges, but my dad really, I was thinking of a way to put it that didn't sound like, oh, he's not good enough. Because it wasn't that he's not good enough, there was just something off about his performance, but then my dad put it in such a good way that I'm going to steal it from him. Pretty much, he's a defender that when the ball is not near him, he's turned off, which is why he's having to make certain last ditch challenges. And those last ditch challenges do look good. Whenever he makes them, it's like, oh, he did well to get back there and make that challenge. But he puts himself in that position. He puts himself in a position to where he does have to step in late. So I felt like that really summed up most of his performance, is that if the ball's not near him, most of the team, and part of this could be because it's his first time playing in the MLS. I don't know if he may have gotten like a couple games last year, but this is his true first performance, because I don't think he ever started a game last year. I think most of them were substitute performances. So that could be part of it. He's not used to connecting with his back line, so maybe while they're pushing together, they're stepping together, he's disconnected because he's not used to it. If that's the case, then hopefully he'll grow into it, but I don't know. I know he is pretty young. I want to say he's like 22, 23 maybe. So we'll see if he gets any better. Obviously, Michael had a great game again, just really solid in the middle. A lot of great challenges. Set up the first goal in the first half with a nice step in and win it, and then lays it off for Almiron to cut it back across. So, yeah, good performance from him again. Chris has really stepped up as this third defender. It's a position that I wasn't sure he was going to be able to play, just because that left wing back role when I saw him live against who was it? Vancouver. I always forget who I saw. In that performance, he looked like he was naturally a left wing back, similar to how Julian looks like he's naturally a right wing back. However, he's come back into this left center back role, and he's actually taken it over very well. Like, he looks like he could play that position for the rest of the season. So I'm very happy with what I've seen from him so far. He's done well. He's stepped up when we needed him to. Good possession, good distribution out of the back as well. And he's tall, he's big, he can win balls in the air. So he's got all of the attributes of being a good defender. So hopefully he can continue to grow and be one of our more solid defenders. So those are the back three. In the middle, once again, Jeff and Darlington Nagbe. Both of them, they've been having good seasons so far. They've both been doing really well. And this is another game where they were kind of quietly solid. The midfield there was never any really danger there. The best chances that LA had really came from they worked the ball out wide, and either Mikey or Julian hadn't stepped in or stepped back to pressure there, like they had stepped into the middle a little bit so the width was open, and then they'd get a cross in, and then somebody would head it out. They never really were able to get many chances going through the middle. They had like 2 throughout the entire game because Jeff and Darlington are just so solid there. So they're 2 players that kind of go unnoticed. Most people don't think much about them, but they are quietly doing their jobs and being very effective in the process. So I really appreciate what they do, and I'm glad we've got such a solid midfield pairing as well. Because last year, Jeff and Carlos, that was a pretty good pairing, but Carlos had his little hiccups here and there. He had moments where he kind of went crazy and went into crazy slide challenges or stupid fouls. Darlington hasn't shown any of that. He's done a very good job of just being consistent, good passes, keeping the play moving, and then defensively he works hard. I love to see it. The wingbacks, like I said, Mikey and Julian, both of them did okay. Mikey did okay. Julian, obviously, man of the match performance from him. And once again, just proving my point, this is where he needs to be. It's a position that I just think suits him so well. Kevin Egan, I think, is the Atlanta United kind of broadcast guy. He put out a tweet today saying that, oh, what a great match, or what a great performance from Julian Gressel. He could play anywhere you wanted him to. He could play striker, he could play defense. I don't really agree with that. I think he's a type of player that you need to get him, first of all, you need to put him in a bit of space. Because if you put him under high pressure, he doesn't do well with that. We saw that a few times last year when he was the right wing position and they dropped a lot of people back. Anytime he was put under high pressure, it was difficult for him to play. Even in preseason, you could see that a bit from these teams that love to just run at you and defend hard and press you hard. So with that right wing back role, there's not a lot of pressure on him out there, which means he has time to get his head up and try to find a pass, or he has time to get in behind the defense and send in a good cross, which is something he does very well. On top of that, defensively, he's not one of our best defensive players, and I think we all know that. However, he will work defensively. He's not as quick, he's not as fast, so you need to give him time to drop back. So you couldn't really put him in like a right fullback, but the right wing back position has the cover of one of those center backs. So he's able to sort of work his way back at his pace, still gets back and helps out defensively, but he's not required to. He's not like, oh, that's one of your number one duties is to get back quickly. So it's a role that suits him so well, and he's taken to it. And I'm glad he's doing so well there because we needed him to find his niche. We needed him to find what made him special to this team. Because last season, yes, he had some good moments. Obviously, he did well in a few games, but there were games where we needed him to step up, and he wasn't there. He didn't have enough to give. Well, now in this new position, I feel like he does because he's in the position he was born to play. Mikey on the other side, they keep kind of switching out like the people who played left back last year. So it was Greg, it was Chris, now it's Mikey. I don't know if they're going to maybe put Ezekiel in whenever he comes back there, just to sort of do similar to what Julian's doing, having a bit more of an attacking player who can get back and defend. But Mikey, he did well. It didn't really feel like a performance that made me go, yes, he's going to be there. And even from Greg, like I haven't seen anything from him at that position that makes me think, yes, that's his position. So we really do need to find somebody who's going to take over that position like Julian has taken over the right wing back position. And I don't know if we have one or if we're just going to have to kind of rotate people, depending on what type of player we need there. If we need more attacking, we'll put in Ezekiel, more defense, either Greg or Mikey. But I guess we'll see going forward what the plan is for that position. And then, of course, the three up top, Tito, Miguel, and Joseph. Miguel and Joseph were just tearing it up today, or yesterday. They're just so free-flowing. You look at Miguel, once again, working back to defend, and then quickly getting out, finding those passes that start our counterattack. And on top of that, it helps us get up the field, too, because we're so pinned back whenever LAFC was passing around that whenever he gets it and finds a player, it lets us sort of push ourselves forward, and it's great to have. Joseph, did a very good job of holding up possession a few times. Obviously, got on the end of the Julian cross for the second goal. He worked hard. Tito is the only one of those three that stood out just because it felt like he's kind of lost in this new formation. And I say that not as a critique, it's more we need to find his new position, whether he's got to be the backup to Joseph or he's got to be the backup to Miguel. But I think this new formation, the way it's working with sort of Joseph and Miguel, like 1-1 right here, Tito is almost like the guy that sometimes he'll drop back in the midfield, but then sometimes he'll be the second striker. And so at times it feels like he just sort of gets lost in all of it. He will have his moments. He's a very talented player, so of course he's going to have moments where he gets on it and does something special. However, it doesn't feel like he really knows what he's doing out there. And that's kind of the disappointment, is that now with this new formation, we have lost one of our most creative players from last year. And on top of that, you could see the frustration growing. He just started hitting shots where he had no chance of scoring and giving it away. So I hope they can look at it and try to find something else for him, another position maybe for him to play that will help bring out his best again. Maybe swap around what's going on up top and not make it so, Tito, you just go up there and do whatever you do. Give him a bit more of a purpose. As far as the subs that came in, Kevin comes on for Tito. Like I said, wasn't playing that well, so it made sense. And on top of that, Kevin's just a solid player. I want to say he set up, was it the second goal? I think it was the second goal. I'm pretty sure he played it over the top to Julian, who crossed it in. I think that's how that happened. But it was a good time for him to come in, too. LA seemed like they were getting a bit of momentum, maybe going to get a goal to equalize, and then Kevin comes on, just provides a bit more of a workhorse in the midfield, and I love having somebody like that in there. And, keeps it simple, nice ball over the top for Julian. It's a very simple ball as well, and then he can get the cross in for the goal. And then the next sub was, I think, Romario Williams came on for Joseph. At that point, he had gotten a goal. I like the fact that he's not reacting so much whenever he gets subbed. Most of the time you see you can just see his frustration. Now he's actually coming off and he looks happy. Obviously he scored today, so that's probably part of why he was happy. But you can tell even when he gets subbed, whenever he's on 2 goals and looking for a hat trick, you can see his frustration there. I didn't see it as much today. So I hope that's a sign that things are changing. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, Romario came on, did well. Got himself a goal. He's a little bit different than Joseph, obviously. He's a bit more of a striker who's willing to come back into the midfield to try to win the ball and try to work off of that. Whereas Joseph is much more of I'm going to stay on the last defender and just terrorize him all day. So it's a little bit different. It really will depend on what type of game it is, depending on who you want up top, I think. Because Romario has shown he has the ability to play as well. He's not necessarily as talented as Joseph, but he is very talented too. So I imagine that it will depend on, okay, do we want a striker who's going to help us defend, or do we want a striker who's going to be more of the attack the defense and more of an outlet type of thing. So, like I said, just depends on the situation. And then the last sub was Andrew Carlton came on for Miguel after the 4th goal. And that's just, give him some minutes here and there. We love, as the fans, we love to see our homegrown kid get some time in the MLS. So it's always a good sub whenever you've got a few goals cushioned. It's always a good sub to just get him on and get him some playing time. So didn't really see much out of him, though. He has these moments where he's kind of selfish, and I hope he can grow out of that, because we need him to just keep it simple. He's a very skilled player, but I think he needs to use that in situations where he's driving down the line, not where he's surrounded by 2 or 3 guys trying to work his way through them. So with all that being said, though, like I said, it was a good game. Obviously, 5-0 is pretty flattering for most of the game. Because for most of it, LA, they did a good job of pinning us in, trying to keep possession and trying to work it around. But we countered that with some good defensive work, some good counterattacking play as well. It's not our typical play that we see at home where we're just constantly going at them and dominating the game. But, it's a 5-0 win at home, and that's another win in the books. I think, is that 4 in a row now? I think it's 4 in a row. But I think the next weekend's game is going to be in New York City. And so that's, of course, even though Orlando is kind of you look at the fans, and I went to watch the Orlando City game in Orlando last year, and God, the fans they hate us. They hate all of the Atlanta fans. And it's one of those things where the rivalry has really formed between the fans, but you don't really see much of it out on the field, though. I would say New York City was the one game where the temper showed on the field. It looked more like a rivalry on the field than it did in the stands. But in my opinion, that's just, I don't know why. I don't know what made that more heated, but there was just something there. You could see the challenges were a little bit more strong and a little bit more gritty. So it's always a game that I look forward to, watching them play New York City. But it's also one of those things where on the road, we're never really as good as we are at home. And on top of that, it's in freaking Yankee Stadium. And my God, playing in a freaking baseball stadium is the worst thing for us for some reason. We just cannot handle it. I'm looking forward to part of it, but I'm also not really looking forward to watching them having to play on a makeshift field, because it's stupid. Just build your own freaking stadium, cheapskates. But with all that being said, that's my thoughts on today's game, or yesterday's game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Lenny United reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.